It's right here. That's not gonna work. I have a friend that once told me that I would make a pretty good YouTube channel. And I was like, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. So here we are. I literally have no idea what I'm doing. But I thought maybe I could just tell you guys about my crazy summer because it's been pretty wild. This video is probably pretty scary because it doesn't have any music and I'm just kind of like sitting here talking to you and it's really awkward. There was this guy that went to my church that I only had a few like private conversations with, aside from like a whole group discussion, because he went to my church and he was my teacher and stuff. But he's a pretty nice guy. Anyway, he texted me like a week before school ended and he said, "Do you want to go on a trip with me to Illinois free of charge?" And my traveler side was like, yes, Kate, you have to do this because otherwise you're not going to get another opportunity to go to Illinois free of charge. And so I was like, okay, but this guy, like, I literally don't know who he is. And then I'm like, hold up. I got parents, right? And they have no idea who this guy is. Like, they've never even talked to him before. They're not sure by name who he is at all. So how am I supposed to convince my parents to let me go on this trip? Sorry, let me clarify. We would not be going on the trip by ourselves. There were a whole bunch of other people going on the trip too that he invited. So like we weren't going to be alone or anything. I told him I would love to go. But there's a problem. See, my parents have no idea who you are and this is happening in a week and they're also out of town. So somehow you're going to have to talk them into it when they get back into town, and then we'll only have like less than a week to prepare for this. The way I just explained that was literally so complicated. Ugh. And he's like, no worries, I got this. So long story short, he comes to talk to my parents for like 2 hours, and you know, I was just kind of like sitting on the sidelines like not paying attention at all. But anyway, eventually they were just like, you know, I really feel like this is a good opportunity for you. I guess you can go. And I'm like, okay. So I'm halfway super excited for this and I'm halfway really nervous to go on this 2-week trip across the United States. Well, halfway across the United States with a bunch of people I've never met before, except for one person. Actually, two. But like I barely know either of them. Meanwhile, I'm super cocky about this trip and I'm like so excited and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going on this trip, you know, spontaneous. A week beforehand I decided to go with a bunch of people that I don't know, you know, like states away to a place I've never been before. And I'm all like strutting through Walmart and then I see like the traveler section where they have like all the mini tubes of toothpaste and all that stuff for traveling. And I'm like, that might come in handy. And I'm like, let me just buy some mini shampoo bottles. And then it's a week later and it's finally day 1 of my wonderful expedition halfway across the United States. And I get my little suitcase and it's 4 in the morning and I'm super pumped. And then I go and get in the van and there's all these people I don't know. So I'm just trying to stay positive and I'm like, hey guys, my name is Kate and I really hope you don't find me obnoxious because I'd really like you guys to like me throughout this trip. And I'm pretty sure no one heard what I said. It's fine. I sit in the passenger seat next to the guy that invited me on this trip, who's kind of like the tour guide of this trip. Because it was all his idea. But we're just kind of like sitting on this super long car ride, just kind of like talking about pretty much anything that comes to mind, like how much money he spent on the traveling snacks. And yeah. We had 2 designated days just for driving and they were not meant to be fun, but I'm like super entertained by everything. Like for an example, when we were driving through Wyoming, we were taking like the really boring side of Wyoming and there'd be like a rock on the side of the road, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, look at that rock, I wonder how it was formed, like, what's next? Okay, so supposedly Wyoming was boring, but then we hit Nebraska. And if any of you have gone through Nebraska, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Nebraska. All there is to do is count the blades of grass and the lines in the middle of the road that you pass. Enough said about that, moving on. Long story short, we get to St. Louis. Really long story short. We get to St. Louis and I'm like absolutely mind blown, you know, because I'm like a city girl at heart and I just love the city. That might be something you'll learn about me. But yeah, we go up into the Gateway Arch, which was so cool. The elevators looked like little either submarines or like spaceships. They were just like tiny little spheres that had like 5 little white seats in them, and you just sit in there and like move up. Anyway, St. Louis was fantastic. I totally recommend visiting, and I totally go back someday. Make sure you go up into the Gateway Arch because it's definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So, moving on, we went to Indiana. We took about, I think, like a full day's drive to get to Indiana. And we went to this little town called Santa Claus. And we stayed there for 2 days, and we went to this big, huge amusement park that some of you may have heard of. It's called Holiday World, and it consists of like 4 different parts. Oh, how do I put this? Come on, Kate, we're waiting. 4 different parts, and each part was like designated to a certain national holiday. Like one of them was Halloween, one of them was Thanksgiving, and one of them was the 4th of July, and then another one was Christmas. And like the whole town of Santa Claus is let's try this again. The whole town of Santa Claus is actually decorated like Christmas. So all of the businesses, like including the dentist and like the market, they all had names that like related to Christmas. Even our hotel was decked out in Christmas trees and little porcelain Christmas towns, and yeah, it was really cool. Wow, it's getting dark in here. I'm losing daylight. It was a super cool amusement park, and there was actually the biggest wooden roller coaster. So that was really cool to see. And what sucked was that I could only see it because I couldn't ride it because I actually got really sick from the humidity. And my immune system was just tripping out. It was a really bad situation. It was so bad to the point that when we left Indiana and went back through St. Louis and into Illinois, I actually had to go to the ER. But that's another story for another day. So, as you probably know, Illinois was our final destination, so after I went to the ER, we settled in our hotel, which was actually kind of like a mini little apartment, which was really nice. It had its own kitchen and everything. And we stayed there for about a week, and after that, we finally made our way home. And the drive home was about the same, and yeah, it was just a lot of driving. Quite obviously, according to the darkness that's closing in on me and ruining my day, I mean, becoming night. I would go more into detail about the trip, but this has to be the end of the video. So sad. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe. I'm gonna try to be more interesting next time. Thank you for watching. Good night.